Hello students, I'm Dr. Arpita De. A very warm welcome to my YouTube channel. The topic for discussion is ultrastructure of plasma membrane. Plasma membrane is otherwise known as cell membrane. This is one term with which we are very familiar. So, a cell membrane is a physical barrier that serves to separate the interior of the cell, that is the cytoplasm, from the extracellular or exterior or external environment. So, it's like a wall that is in between, that is standing in between the cytoplasm and the extracellular environment. It is a dynamic structure with a sol gel consistency. We will talk about this in our previous slides. It is semi-permeable in nature. That means what? It will selectively allow certain particles to go in and certain specific particles to come out. Okay, it's a semi-permeable or selective boundary wall that helps in maintaining proper structure of the cell. Therefore, we can understand from this that this plasma membrane also helps to give a skeletal support to the cell. Singer and Nicholson in 1972 gave us the fluid mosaic model of plasma membrane. We will discuss why is it called mosaic structure in our previous slides. This is a diagrammatic representation of a cell. You can see that this red circled part, this part, if we concentrate on, we see that this is your plasma membrane. Now this is a picture of the plasma membrane. It is also known as your phospholipid bilayer. Why is it a bilayer? You can see that there are two layers to it. One is at the top and the other is at the bottom. I've tried my best to represent all the components of plasma membrane in this particular diagram. Please pause the video and take down the diagram in your notebooks. From the picture we see here the two phospholipid layers studded with proteins, cholesterol and carbohydrates. The carbohydrate chains are present on proteins as well as the hydrophilic heads of the phospholipid bilayer. One part is hydrophobic in nature, the other part is hydrophilic in nature. Hydrophilic means it loves water. Hydrophobic is it is afraid of water. That means it avoids water. Please follow this index. Integral membrane protein spans throughout the membrane and peripheral membrane protein is integrated at the peripheral part of the membrane. Cholesterol is tucked in between the phospholipid bilayer. Now let's see. Plasma membrane, abbreviated as PM, is composed of phospholipids, carbohydrates, cholesterol and proteins. All these four components have different vital roles to play in maintaining the structure of the cell, in maintaining the health of the cell. This is the structure of a phospholipid particle. It is got a hydrophilic polar head which is composed of phosphate and glycerol, and this is the tail region which is non-polar and hydrophobic in nature. This means what? The head region loves water and interacts with water, whereas the tail region is hydrophobic in nature. That means it doesn't interact with water. Okay, this part is composed of saturated and non-unsaturated fatty acids. C. Phospholipid is amphiphilic and is composed of a head and tail, the former being composed of phosphate and glycerol backbone, while the latter is composed of fatty acids. The head is water loving and is directed outwards. The fatty acid tail has no affinity for water and is therefore directed inwards. Now let's talk about the protein component of plasma membrane. Proteins can be broadly categorized into two subheads: peripheral membrane protein and integral membrane proteins. The peripheral membrane proteins are not embedded in the lipid bilayer. Look at this, it is not embedded in the bilayer, it is present at the peripheral region. Rather, they are attached to the head region of the phospholipid at the periphery of the membrane. It has unique sequences of amino acids by virtue of which it remains anchored with the hydrophilic region. It has got certain unique sequences of amino acid which helps them to remain anchored or integrated with the hydrophilic part of the plasma membrane. Let's see what are integral membrane proteins. Integral membrane proteins are embedded in the lipid bilayer. This is where the difference lies. See, the peripheral ones are at the periphery or at the border part. But these integral membrane proteins are embedded in the lipid bilayer. It has hydrophobic regions by virtue of which they remain anchored with the hydrophobic region of the membrane. Hydrophobic region means which one? The tail regions. Some of these proteins are transmembrane in nature. Now let's talk about carbohydrates. The carbohydrates projects towards the exterior of the cell. You can see from this picture it is projecting towards the exterior of the cell. The carbohydrate chains are made up of monosaccharide units. These monosaccharide units, they form a chain and they are attached to either proteins or carbohydrate. Based on this, it can be subdivided into glycolipid, where the carbohydrate chain is attached to lipids, and glycoproteins, where carbohydrate chain is attached to proteins. They act as cellular markers. Okay, what are cellular markers? Now, these carbohydrate chain will allow other cells to identify a particular cell which has got this cellular marker. Okay, and we should always remember that glycocalyx is hydrophilic in nature. Finally, we come to cholesterol. Cholesterol is a buffering component of the plasma membrane when temperature comes to play. It buffers the effect of temperature. When temperature is more, okay, it reduces the fluidity of the membrane. But when temperature is low, it increases the fluidity of the membrane, thus maintaining the entire health or normal fluidity of the membrane, thus maintaining the proper functioning of the cell. So what is cholesterol? It is found embedded in the hydrophobic tail region of the membrane. You can see these black chains. It helps in maintaining the fluidity of the membrane, thus rendering it functional. It buffers the effect of temperature. So this is how we learn about the four important components. So we can now say that plasma membrane is a mosaic of phospholipids, carbohydrates, proteins, and cholesterol. These are the four main important components which make up the plasma membrane. So this is how we wind up our discussion on ultrastructure of plasma membrane today. If you have any confusion, any doubts anywhere, please feel free to ask me in the comment section. I will try my level best to clear your doubts. I would request you to pause the video each time you need and you make your own notes. Wherever you have problem, please feel free to get back to me. Hope to see you soon in the next video. Till then, bye bye.